Shalom Habarim. How are ye? So, this video is about self-mastery and how to really sustainably maintain and manifest your good divine destiny and master your life in your divine destiny. And that includes the ability to actually live healthily and wealthily, safely and securely, permanently on an ongoing basis, right? By maintaining a certain amount of ongoing, permanent, minimum amount of self-discipline. Okay, so first of all, the first step to self-mastery is in fact identifying what life cycle periods you are in at this very moment, because then you know where you stand, what time it is for what things in your life. So that's the first step. So at this point, it's the 25th of August, 2025 at 2:20 p.m. using the wintertime calculation of time only all year round to get the accurate reading of time. And that's Monday afternoon. It's a daily period of the period of G. It is also a neutral lunar unit right now for another hour and like 20 minutes or so. So we're in a neutral lunar unit for the next hour in about 14 minutes or so. Okay. So then I also know what annual life cycle period I'm in, right? And that, of course, includes a annual health, business, and personal life cycle. Okay. And I also know what simple overall period of human life I'm in. Okay. And I also have an ongoing basic overview of and comprehension of the information pertaining to my soul personality, right? Based on my so-called birthday. And as you may notice, we're looking at about 9 different cycles of life here that we should monitor and watch, preferably comprehending the description thereof, and even therefore being able to fully access the systematically available divine providence in these different life cycles as much as possible. And so you really should, in fact, monitor and check the life cycles that you're in about every 3 hours during the day, because that is like wise navigation and watchfulness of the cycles of life that you're in. And the shortest one that there is, namely the short lunar unit of 3 hours, that changes every 3 hours as part of the 12-hour cycle of the tides. So that having been said, there's about 9 different cycles of life that you should monitor at minimum once a day, and preferably every 3 hours during the day. And I'll quickly summarize those again from short to long. The first cycle is the short lunar unit of 3 hours, then the daily period of the cycles of life of 3 hours and 25 minutes, whereof there are 7 a day, then the 3.5 day long lunar unit that alternates between negative and positive, etc., every 3.5 days, and then the annual life cycle period of 52 days that you may be in right now. Based on the date of your birthday, you have the annual life cycle period of 365 days, approximately, divided into 7 segments of approximately 52 days. And every one of these 7 segments is one of the 7 annual life cycle periods wherein there is a health, business, and personal life cycle period of 52 days that is important to monitor and comprehend so that you can access the right providence that is available and basically accomplish the right things, wherefore it is the time, and that will therefore then also bear good fruit. And this will also result in what is classifiable as like sustainable good health and wealth increase, okay, and security and safety and basically good life on an ongoing basis. Okay, that's the annual life cycle period. And then you've got the simple overall period of human life, right? Based on your birthday again, going from 0 to 144 years. And then in that 144 year long cycle, there are segments of 7 years. Okay, then you also have your soul personality to monitor and watch, right? And comprehend the information of, so that you can basically further, metaphysically and physically and spiritually evolve in the right way during this life. And that includes being able to know what the right decisions are to make in both business life, personal life, health life, etc., right? So we've got these 9 different cycles to monitor as much as possible and to comprehend as much as possible, so that we can then actually really know how life is right now and what is supposed to be right now and make it happen, right? And this works. And during all of this process and permanently, we have additional and permanent superior divine support and aid helping us, right? Divine guidance at work all the time, okay? Now, here's something that's highly important for you, the viewers, and those of you who are going to be masters of your life and your destiny, right? It's that you really have to make your own calendar and actually watch and monitor the cycles of life that you're in. Now, this is something that I comprehended and I realized was true. Let's say generally around the age of like maybe once or so in my mid-20s, and then clearly and certainly at the age of about 33 or so. Interesting, when cosmic attunement or enlightenment happens, usually during the summer of the 32nd year of your life, and then having happened, ultimately increasing moments of cosmic attunement or just universal comprehension, right? Having culminated and led to permanent enlightenment definitely by the 33rd year of your life, okay? So let's say around the age of 33, I realized that, it really would be good if you made a calendar and you mapped out the life cycles for every day and you had a page for every day, because that way you would know exactly what life cycles you're in during the entire day. You would know what the lunar units are, what the positive and negative lunar units are. You could judge the results of an action based on knowing what energetic state the universe and the world and earth, human, and life activity around you is in. And all of this, and basically the complete and total process, the most important process in our lives that has to do with self-mastery, also basically being navigation, wise life cycle navigation work and calendar work, right, would expedite everything and make it all so much better. And so finally, we had to start making these calendars, because you know that it's the right thing to do. You know that if you do this, it will all work so much better in your life. And finally, you have to force yourself to do it. And then you reap the good rewards thereof. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about now. So now this right here is precisely what I'm talking about. So this right here is basically a calendar with a page for this day. All right, so I'm going to explain what this is, right? So this is like a wise man of God's perfect working calendar, so to say. This is about as good of a calendar in terms of the information that is therein that a human being can have. And I would like to know, do you have a calendar like this? If you do, please send me a message. I'd like to hear from you. So I'm going to quickly explain what this is. This is a calendar for tomorrow, right? In like 8 days. So this is a calendar for a day in the future, in the near future, that basically includes the following information so that it's easily intelligible and comprehensible by us at a glance, right? Instead of having all this information like in your thoughts, you've just got it right here, 2D, 3D, good to go, ready to go and work with. So what it is, starting from the shortest, you've got the short lunar unit of 3 hours that happens to be part of the tide cycle of 12 hours. Then you've got the long lunar unit of 3.5 days. Okay, this is mapped out, right? So that we know, what lunar unit we're in. Then I have work here. Okay, so the shortest to begin with is the short lunar unit of 3 hours. You may notice there are 3-hour marks of time frames here. Okay, for example, from 1:41 a.m. to 4:41 a.m. It happens to be the case that there's a high tide at 4:41 a.m. on that day. 3 hours before a high tide, it's a positive short lunar unit. That positive short lunar unit combined with the negative 3.5 day long lunar unit that we're in there at that time, right, equals a neutral lunar unit in that time frame. This tells us is that the state, like the energetic state that Earth, human, and life activity and people and other humans also around us, including ourselves and others, right, are in at that time is something like neutral. Neither very energetically masculine and positively and life increasingly active, yet rather neutral and not energetically feminine and resting in terms of energy, rather neutral. Okay? So then we can judge the results of an action in this time frame based on the energetic state that the Earth, human, and life activity in the world and the universe around us and this part of the world is in at this time, in terms of that it will be generally relatively neutral in nature. Like, sort of, if you had to look at how the world around you works, you could say there's either a double positive charge that's very building and increasing, or a positive one that's building, or a neutral one that's neutral, or a negative one that's decreasing, or a negative one that's very, decreasing. Okay, so once again, from short to long here, right? You've got the short lunar unit of 3 hours. It's part of the 12-hour tide cycle. That's the first cycle to be regarded, the short lunar unit. Then the long lunar unit of 3.5 days. The short lunar unit of 3 hours is the first cycle to be mapped. Then you've got the 3.5 day long lunar unit here. Then you've got the first cycle to be regarded is the 3-hour short lunar unit. Then you've got the daily periods of the cycles of life that are all 3 hours and 25 minutes in length, right? So there's a couple of those a day. There's 7 of them a day. Okay, then there's the 3.5 day long lunar unit. And then the next cycle is the annual life cycle period of 52 days that you're in, and the simple overall period of human life. And you would also have your soul personality to monitor too. And that goes on for, 0 to 144 years, right? So once again, what life cycles do we have to watch? At all times, ideally speaking.
First of all, the short lunar unit of 3 hours. Then the daily period of the cycles of life of 3 hours and 25 minutes, whereof there are 7 a day. Then the 3.5 day long lunar unit that constantly alternates between negative and positive. Then the annual life cycle period of 52 days that we're in. Then the simple overall period of human life that is 7 years in length that we're in. And then also our soul personality.
Okay, now listen. If you actually go ahead and you make a calendar page like this for every day, basically you have a high amount of information about exactly what is going on in the universe and the world around you at this time. And that is very, very valuable. Now, why is this so important to have a calendar like this as a master of your life and your destiny? Because it's like having a simple overview, a technical overview, and a situational overview, even a big picture that still does get bigger too, and more accurate and therefore more prosperous, of pretty much everything that's going on in the universe, and like being able to see the future over certain frames of time, like I said, with the daily periods of 3 hours or the 3.5 day lunar unit, right? Like you've got the ability to actually see how life is programmed at these times. So I know, for example, I know for the next 3 hours, I know how life is programmed here. I know what should be, and if I work on that, that will be, and that will be good. Versus trying to tinker with the wrong things and nothing really becomes of that. Okay, so all of life is completely systematical and perfect because the Creator geometrized. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The beginning of wisdom was a fear of God, right? Wisdom is a principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all that getting, get understanding. Amen. So be it, right? Wisdom is my sister, without a vow, God willing. Amen. So think about this for a second. It is, in fact, authentic science at work here, because the data on that page that I showed you, right, that actually comes from scientific data that is available and intelligible to any person. And most of what it actually is the lunar units. And those are identifiable by the date of like the new moon or the full moon. And then you have data there that is from a tide chart, from nearest maritime port. And then you have data like that comes from, and all of it comes from a certain book. And this book is absolutely eternally valuable. And it's called Self-Mastery and Fate with the Cycles of Life by H. Spencer Lewis. Okay? And thank you to the Ancient Mystical Order of the Rosy Cross for that absolutely magnificent and eternally valuable publication and the great service to humanity that they have provided. Yeah? So that book is free. Now, so what we're actually working with here is real science. And how does real science work? God created man in his image and after his own likeness and gave him wisdom. Okay, so then man observes, investigates the environment and notices, certain details and patterns and order and creation, and learns and sees and comprehends basically the Creator's magnificent, skillful handiwork and how life and creation in the universe works, and begins to comprehend and begins to basically to prosper, legitimately live very good because of being able to understand how life works and therefore how to live it the best possible way. So like this could be compared to people that live by the ocean and gradually they discover that there are tides and that they can utilize these tides to go out to beautiful islands and to pick, really healthy fruits and things that are available on that island, and then return to their beach and, et cetera, et cetera. You have all these good things that the Creator provided us with, yet you have to be able to systematically and intelligently access them. And that's what science is also actually like, scientias in Latin, like knowledge, right? Scientia, knowing, right? I think that's correct. Scientias. So knowledge, or like in Hebrew it would be da'at. That's why it says wisdom is a principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And with all that getting, get understanding. And I'm going to add the phrase, for heaven's sake, because it's about time. See, this is what's important, right? So wisdom is a principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And with all that getting, get understanding. And it's free. Thank and praise Him, right? It's free. The best things are for free because the Creator is eternally good and bountifully merciful, right? And His loving kindness endures forever. So He provides us with the best possible things. Listen, it is in fact the case that probably the most precious, the most valuable books with the most valuable and precious information in existence that have ever been compiled by righteous men and holy men and wise men, to whom all credit that is due, without a vow, God willing, right? All of them, thank you, Abba, in the name of our boss, Yeshua the Messiah, for all of them, right? And may they all rest in peace and rise in glory of our boss wills, right? In other words, we have to say like a massive and a big thank you to all these, to any and all of the legitimate wise men, holy men, and those that have, let's say, compiled, put together, who have researched and revealed, right, certain information. And this ranges from King Solomon, double honors, right, to, the legit wise men who may have and obviously have and who have, written other books too that may not be directly part of the Holy Biblical Canon, yet are filled with legitimate wisdom. Because you see, God's creation is universally perfectly programmed, and there is insight into this in due measure to anyone who is like legitimately seeking, because the Creator is very bountiful. And also, the Creator, blessed be His name, He does not regard persons. He doesn't look on the person, He looks on the piety. So it could be anybody, technically, who is sufficiently legit in their life that can receive massive amounts of divine blessing, including authentic and super good wisdom. Let me tell you something. See, the subject matter of wisdom, or what is known as chokmah in Hebrew, right? It is something that is literally commanded. God commands us to be wise, yet moreover, He provides us with it to be wise and to live wisely and very goodly, right? So this is more valuable and more important than probably, like, next to the fear of God itself and faith and trusting in the divine attribute of hesed or mercy, trusting in God's love and His providence for all of your life as a general rule, and faith, and then of course also serving Him with all of your ability and resources and everything. Wisdom is probably the most important thing, because it is like the technical understanding of how God's creation works and how we can also live together with Him safely in due measure, and therefore live the best possible way. So the thing is that wisdom is so much more valuable than anything that you could imagine or anything that the world could ever produce, except for God's creation at all, right? In terms of like wisdom is more valuable than all the riches and all the financial wealth and whatever commodities and anything that you could attain even in this physical world, because it has higher, superior working operational capability that governs the in and out of existence of everything. So wisdom is so valuable. And like I said, it's actually free. It's like, does this cost money to hear what I'm saying? Does it? No, it's free. What I'm telling you is that the beginning of wisdom is a fear of God, good understanding to all the practitioners. So all of you wise practitioners that have a healthy respect of the Creator, good understanding to you, so that you'll have legit wisdom, and that will work really good for you in your lives. Better than anything else except for God's providence and that being a part of it, actually. So the thing is, you have to have legitimate, true, authentic, real wisdom. And then, look, there's a theoretical instructions, like you're listening to this vlog, right? Listening to me talk in this video, you're getting theoretical information. And then you have to take that theoretical and technical information, like from the books, from the paperwork, right? Like I've got it here, right? I've got it in this calendar, right? I've got that information in here. Okay, I've got the operating manual and the data and the instructions, right? Yet, then you have to go into the field with it, right? And safely and victoriously operate in the field with it. So how does this actually look then? It looks exactly like me standing here right now. This is like the living example of a master, of a victor at work in the field of life, in the world, not of it. Because, listen, it's like, you see this? I'm just a living man of God, right? A wise man of God, okay. And I've got this thing right here. I've got this data, right, that tells to me and explains to me, without a vowel, God willing, that explains to me and tells me exactly what is going on and what can go on in all of this. And that's like for about a radius of, let's say, at least a 500-mile radius around me, okay? So, like, once again, to show you just how this works, right? Look, all I have to do is open up, right, to the page, right, of this day that we are in right now, okay? So I'm in the books, right? Essentially speaking, all I've got to do is open the operating manual, the instructions, the map, or the calendar, really the calendar page, right, with the information about the life cycles today, right, and look at it and go, okay, for example, what time is it now? What's going on? What are the lunar units right now? What are things programmed to be like here? What should I can, hey, I could go anywhere right now. I can do anything, technically. Right? So what is the right choice to make right now? How do you master your life and your destiny right now? Starts by making the wisest, most legit decisions right here and right now. And how do we make these? With wisdom. Actually, practically applying wisdom in our lives, operating scientifically. Okay. How do you operate scientifically right now? I'll show you how. It's like this. What time is it? What time is it? It's 2:52 p.m. Still, we're in a daily period of G. We have got a neutral lunar unit for another, so like about 43 minutes, okay? So, for example, I know what this time that I'm in right now for another 40 minutes is like. I know that it's a neutral lunar unit, so then I know that In this part of the world, for example, let's say within a 500-mile radius of where I'm standing right now, generally speaking, and remember, there are varying degrees of accuracy to this stuff, including tidal potential and how that is active on land and visibly active through and on and with bodies of water that are oceans, and thus resulting in tides. So let's not get into too much of this yet. Listen, with this entire thing and this subject matter of self-mastery and also navigating the life cycles that you're in and the details of the lunar units and how that happens to be because of the energy that powers the universe in this going through cycles and phases in this heavens and earth plane system that we live in, where this is visible, like you have a new moon, you have a full moon, you have a high tide, a low tide. The energy that powers the universe goes through systematic, perfect phases within this heavens and earth plane system that we live in as human beings, created in the image of God and after his own likeness, right? So there's a lot more. Like, this is just a tip of the spear here. This is like the beginning. There's more and additional wisdom in the most minute details to be identified and divinely, providentially received and comprehended and utilized for the good in our lives. So what I'm saying is that this is just the beginning. There's even more interesting, really good details of how creation works that are revealed to us on an ongoing basis, because God is with us, within us, and one with us, and communicates and guides and instructs and comforts us, right? So, for example, though, self-mastery is really like this right here. I'm a living example of it, without a vow, God willing, right? So, we're out here in the field of life, right? This is the field of life. Okay. I know exactly right now, I know what time of day it is using the winter time, right? Then I know that we're in a neutral lunar unit till for another 40 minutes. Okay. So what is that? Why is that important to know? Because, like I said, so things are energetically in a state of neither inactivity nor very high activity. It's just sort of being. It's not really building very much. It's just being, and it's not really tearing down very much in terms of the vibes. And I can sense that with myself right now because, for example, over the past hour or so, I've had ideas, and then I'm thinking, okay, I should go and do this later, but then it stops again. And you just sort of, it's kind of a neutral state. Now, this is because the energy that powers the universe goes through phases in this heavens and earth plane system here. And this is visible through the heavenly bodies where there's different phases that it goes through. These phases are the lunar unit. They're identifiable by the lunar units, and they're also visible by how the lunar units cause what is known as the tides. It's one of the most basic examples of it. So now look, this is actual real science that we're talking about here. And hey, happy are those that are intelligent and wise and listening to this and getting this and working and living with this. You are going to be really, really good to go and very good in your life. And things are going to be real good with you as you get this more and more and you work with this. Okay? That is a fact right there. So basically, I know what lunar units are going on for another 40 minutes. So now what I can do is I can coordinate my activities, right? According to the description of the daily period, for example. For example, the daily period of the cycles of life that we're in right now, on this Monday afternoon is a G period. So G period is good for example, for mechanical inventions that work, that make things work. Okay, so like mechanical inventions and mechanical technical working solutions and inventions. In other words, solving mechanical problems, making things work. That's exactly what we're doing right now. It's a very technical sort of a vibe during a G period. A G period is one of the daily periods of the cycles of life that you have, for example, on a Monday afternoon from 1:42 to 5:08 p.m. Okay, so we're making mechanical inventions and working mechanisms in our life right now to fix and to upgrade and to increase the health and wealth and overall prosperity within our ongoing operation that is scientific, where we're practically applying wisdom in our life, right? So this starts with knowing what state the world, earth, human, and life activity and the heavens and earth plane in the universe is in right now, in this existential state here, heavens and earth plane, human being, right? Walking the earth safely here. So we know we're in a neutral lunar unit for another 40 minutes. Okay. Now, why is that important? Well, because, for example, 40 minutes later now, what's going to happen is it's going to be a double, it will be a double negative lunar unit. Now, a double negative lunar unit is like 3-hour time frame, so a double negative short lunar unit, a 3-hour time frame where, like, you're going to take a nap on the couch safely. You're not going to build a house in that time. And if you try to, it's going to be two times harder than during a positive or during a double positive lunar unit, right? So like there's all this stuff going on where the things that we do, there's a time when they work and they work almost automatically and very good, or they work like rather neutral, or they work not very good. And knowing this ahead of time, we can coordinate our activities and make the right things work at the right times, and therefore have maximum victory, maximum prosperity, and just the best possible state of existence that is possible to have. It's like there's a time and a place for everything on earth and under heaven. The right things at the right times equals the right and maximum amount of positive results, fruits, good things. We can always have good things. We can avoid bad things. It has to do with being wisely organized. And how you do that is with the calendar. So the self-mastery, self-made calendar, right, I've got here, tells me that, okay, in 40 minutes from now, for 3 hours, it's going to be a double negative lunar unit. Now, the daily period of the cycles of life is also going to change here in about 2 hours, right? So like 2 hours and 2 minutes, the daily period changes. So then different things become possible, and going from a G period into an A period, right? So we have to know exactly where we stand right now. Then we can operate the best possible way right now. And then we also have to look ahead at what is coming up so that we know what the future is to be like, and moreover, so that we can make the future a certain way. That's why this navigational work is so important. Because look, if you start to do this and you do it accurately, right, and wisely, for example, calendar work, navigational work, writing the calendar, right, all this stuff, there's a time when if you do it at that time, it will work right and it will be easier and it will be accurate. Whereas at another time, you may miss a detail. And if your calculations are off, that can make a difference. Listen, if there's something that has to happen where it has to be a positive results, right? There's a time frame wherein that can happen. Then we got to have that identified exactly to the minute. Okay? We can do that. And so should you, right? So, like, what is actually going on here is that, for example, having the data that I have, right? I can look ahead at what is going to happen, for example, tomorrow. So, see, when I say what is going to happen, you might think, what? How do I know what's going to happen, right? I'll explain to you why and how I know what is going to happen. Some will probably watch this and think, what? How is he able to state that? I'm willing and able to state that, and it is the truth, and you will see that for yourself if you operate the same. So here once again, right, Wednesday, for example, right?
So I've got the lunar short lunar units on the top left. I've got the long lunar unit in the middle bar. I've got work at that day. And then it would have the daily periods from Wednesday written down too. Then the annual life cycle period, simple overall, still going to monitor your soul personality. So now, here's what's going on right now. I have something like a map that covers a certain amount of area within and how, and showing me how life and the cycles of life progresses linearly over linear time. So it's almost like with this data at hand now, having a calendar where the life cycles are mapped out for where we're operating scientifically, right? It's like having a schedule of what is actually going to happen at what times over a certain amount of time for a certain period of time into the actual future, like being able to accurately look ahead into linear time as it progresses linear into the future for certain amounts of time based on however far you map things out, right? And therefore being able to see, and the reason why we can see ahead of time and into the future is because of how everything in creation systematically progresses by way of methods that we can intelligently comprehend and have insight into, such as, for example, the moon or the lunar units, right? It's like, if we know that the sun rises in the west, the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west every day where we are, right? We just simply know for a fact that later it is going to set in the west. And tomorrow in the AM, it's going to rise in the east. And so we can know, okay, it's going to be light during the day and it's going to be dark at night. Okay, so we just know how creation works based on having intelligent insight into the system of how the world, the earth, the planets, whatever heavenly bodies, the universe works. So this is real science, and like almost like looking at the clockwork of creation and being able to then see how it works and how it is going to work in the future because of how everything works systematically. So like, because there's a universal order in creation and things progressively go on in a way that is like harmonious or geometrical, that's why we can look into the future, because it's not all random. It's not like all of a sudden the weather's going to change, it's going to be dark, and then it's going to be daytime and nighttime. That doesn't happen. It's daytime, evening, nighttime, right? 4 seasons: spring, summer, winter, spring, summer, autumn, winter, spring, summer, autumn, winter, right? Male, female, full moon, empty moon, new moon, right? Just how it works. So having insight into this real science of how life, the universe, the world, the heavenly bodies, the tides, things like this works, it shows us, it's like what you're actually looking at here is almost like looking at the clockwork, if you look closely and intelligently at the world and the universe around you, it's almost like, okay, the average person will be looking at the front side of the watch, and that's what we do normally. But then if you look a little further and you start to zoom out and comprehend the big picture, it's like you can open this thing up and see how the gears turn, how this thing really works, and how it is going to work. And that's actually true. Now, I can actually prove that what I'm saying is true. I can prove to you and anybody, at the right time, in the right place, of course, without a vow, God willing, I can prove to you that I can foresee the future based on where I am, and also make certain things happen in the future according to accomplishing an objective that I have, with the additional possibility of it working much better by divine additional guidance and providence. Yet really, this is no different than me saying, look, where do you live? Oh, you live in North America. Oh, you live in Central Europe. Okay.
Listen, tomorrow, sometime in the AM, the sun is going to rise in the east, my friend. And at some time in the evening, it is going to set in the west, right? Is that an accurate prediction? Yeah, it is, right? So there you go. So that's how this works. Now, see, this is very important because, look, picture this by the following example. In life, right, because it's cyclical and because there are basically negative and positive units combined equaling either double negative lunar units of 3 hours, or a negative lunar unit of 3 hours, or a neutral lunar unit of 3 hours, a short lunar unit, or a positive short lunar unit of 3 hours, or a double positive short lunar unit of 3 hours. And because of the fact that this changes every 3 hours, right? What happens is that everything in life is constantly changing, yet it is all changing within certain parameters that we can identify. Now, what's even more interesting is this, is that, see, while we can actually technically comprehend how the heavens and earth plane, earth, human, and life activity, the cycles of life, even things like the lunar units, new moon, full moon, day, night, etc., how this all works, right? High tide, low tide, negative, positive, all that. While we can actually comprehend how all this works, additional wisdom and knowledge is continuously being revealed to us from the cosmic source, from the Creator, from God within us. To Him be the praise. Hallelujah. Now, what's interesting is that you keep gaining additional wisdom to the point where, and then this is where the part about the calendar and the paperwork comes in. You do have to write the calendar at a certain point, because if you don't do this, you're constantly juggling stuff kind of in your mind. Like, oh yeah, remember, there's a full moon on that day. It's a couple days from now. Just write it on paper. Simplify your life. Write it on paper. Write a calendar like I wrote. You should do this. It's important, right? And so now, here's what happens. The more you make accurate maps, right? Calendar, life cycle navigation on paper, accurately, like a map, like a calendar page for every day, right? Listen. A calendar page for every day, you make that once a day, and it's pretty much here. You make a life cycle calendar page for every day, pretty much have something like this. Again, here's another one. Here's another page for in a couple of days, right? I already know what the short lunar units of 3 hours are on that day. I also know what the long one is, and I know when we have a full moon on that, pretty much on that day. So having this knowledge and this technical data, right, and this map that I've made myself, that is really just a calendar. Oh, also, from time to time, you have to make pages that show you the lunar units, right? So like, because the lunar units are constantly changing between negative and positive for 3.5 days, right? You have to map these out too. Here's a 3.5 day negative one. Then here's a 3.5 day positive one, and so on. And like, we had a full moon, right? Recently. So things were full. Then it decreasing to a new moon point. Saturday, 23rd of August, 8:06 a.m., we had a new moon. Now what's happening? We have got a new moon that is steadily increasing right now till a full moon on the 7th of September, right? So we can even look at the lunar cycles and judge by this stuff that, like, the volume or the charge of the standard universal life force as it goes through this heavens and earth plane system that we're in is on an increasing from a standard minimum, that's a new moon level, to a standard maximum full moon level right now. So everything is on the upswing between this recent new moon we had on the 23rd about 2 days ago till the 7th of September. Everything is on an positive increasing trajectory in terms of the long lunar cycle from new moon to full moon. So that is something you have to factor in, because, see, that's showing us that in creation right now, for example, since the new moon 2 days ago till the full one on the 7th, in so 12 days from now, everything is increasing. The mass, like the life force, is going through a phase of reaching a standard higher maximum level, a standard systematic higher maximum level. And what is that indicative by? How can we see that? It's indicated by the full moon. So it's like the clockwork of the creation is God's handiwork in the heavens, the heavenly bodies. It's like looking at the dashboard of the universe. So we got to monitor all this stuff. And the farther you zoom out, the more you see everything clearly, the better. And the more wise work you put into this, the more rewards you get. Right? Because listen, as with all things in life, like this crop over here, the more you go at the right time, right, the more plants grow and the bigger and better the harvest is going to be. So with self-mastery, the more wise work you put into it at the right times, remember, the bigger and the better your rewards and blessings will be. And that's just a fact. So once again, it's all simply possible, and it can all be good in your life. You just have to wisely operate scientifically, have the right things at the right time, right? Identify your real-time position in the cycles of life right now and plan ahead and operate wisely and prudently and happily and safely and accomplish the highest good overall, the best that can happen to us in our eternal lifetimes, and for all and for others too, right?